This video is brought to you in partnership with Leslie's Pool Supplies. Hi, I'm David from swimmingpoollearning.com. In this video I'm going to go over some tips on replacing your pool equipment. Recently there was a deep freeze in Texas. I'm going to go over some tips on replacing your pool equipment, and I'll use that as the example here in this video. But if you have to replace your pool equipment, this is definitely relevant for you. And so recently Texas had a cold snap or a very deep freeze, and a lot of their pool equipment got damaged or destroyed. One thing to note is that the manufacturer will not warranty any pool equipment that is frozen or damaged from freezing. And if your pool is not up and running by the start of the season, chances are it's going to turn green or be full of algae like this. And you may be tempted to drain your pool and leave it empty until you repair your equipment. One of the things you need to know is that a lot of the times the sun will damage your plaster. So when the temperature gets over 90 to 100 degrees, a lot of times the plaster will start to crack and chip. And if you have a vinyl or fiberglass pool, it's definitely not recommended that you drain it and leave it empty. So leaving your pool empty will cause damage to the surface, and then you have to remodel the pool, which will cost more money than replacing the equipment. So if your pool filter has a cracked top or bottom, you can definitely replace either just the top or the bottom. A good rule of thumb is that if your filter is 8 to 10 years old, replacing the whole filter is recommended. It's pretty much near the end of its active lifespan anyway at that age, and so replacing one component means that the other one may go bad in a year or two. And if you're going to replace your filter, a good rule is to replace it with the same size filter you have now. So if you have a 60 square foot DE filter, you definitely want to put a 60 square foot DE filter in. If you want to change to a cartridge filter, you want to go with a 400 square foot cartridge filter. And if you're going to go with a sand filter, you want to go with a 300 or 400 pound sand filter. And if your pump housing is cracked, or the wet end as we call it, you can definitely replace just that portion of it. But another good rule of thumb is that if your pump is already 8 to 10 years old, it's pretty much near the end of its lifespan, so replacing the entire pump would be logical at that point. Also keep in mind that if you're replacing a single speed wet end, you may not be able to find the motor for that after July 19th. The Department of Energy is going to mandate that all pumps be energy efficient across the United States after July 19th, so you may not be able to get a replacement motor. So you may want to just consider upgrading to a variable speed pump at this time. And besides that, a variable speed pump is going to save you a lot of money on your energy use, and it actually will pay for itself in a year or two. And one note, when replacing your single speed pump with a variable speed pump, you want to match the horsepower you have now or install a variable speed pump with a total horsepower greater than the pump you have now. And so if you have a 1 horsepower pump, you want to put it in a 1.65 or 1.85 total horsepower variable speed pump. And in the same respect, if you have a 1.5 or 2 horsepower single speed pump, you want to look for a variable speed pump with a total horsepower of 2.7 or 3. And if you have an older equipment pad and you're using 115 volts, there's no need to upgrade your voltage to 230. A lot of the newer variable speed pumps will actually modulate the voltage, so it doesn't matter if you have 230 volts or 115 volts going to your equipment. And I think this analogy works well when you're thinking about replacing your filter or pump. If you have a full-size truck and then you go with a compact truck, you're not going to have the same performance or usefulness out of the smaller truck than you have with the larger truck. The same thing goes with the filter. If you downsize to a small filter, your pool's performance will definitely suffer. And if you downsize your horsepower to a lower horsepower, the pool flow will definitely suffer. And if you have a full-size truck and you want the same performance, you definitely have to invest in another full-size truck. And the same thing with your pool filter and pool pump. You want to get the same size pool filter and pump for the similar performance for your pool. So let me touch on some other components of your pool. If you have to replace your check valve or your valve diverter, note that they're pretty universal and you can change them with other brands. So if you have a Jandy valve, you can definitely use a Pentair or Hayward valve. If you have a check valve, you can use different brands of the check valve also. And the same thing goes with the valve actuators. You can replace it with any other valve actuator. They're all pretty universal with the automated systems. So a lot of pool components are definitely universal, and you can use those if you can't find a certain part. And if you have a rainbow chlorinator connected to your pool and it's been damaged, you can replace that, or you can just simply cut it out and replace the PVC pipe where it was installed at. And if you have a saltwater system and you don't have the resources to get a new cell or a new system, you can take out that cell and put a dummy cell in its place, or a winterizing cell. You can also create a cell yourself if you can't find one your size by getting some unions and also some PVC pipe. And a good rule of thumb for a saltwater system is that if you replace 2 cells already, it's probably time to upgrade to another saltwater system entirely. And if your saltwater system is down temporarily, you can definitely use liquid chlorine in the meantime. The saltwater generator is making liquid chlorine for your pool, so switching to liquid chlorine is a good alternative during the season. One of the most expensive components of your pool equipment is your heater. If you have a gas heater and it's not functioning or it's been damaged, I highly recommend trying to repair that heater. And if you're in California or Texas, or maybe some other states, one of the requirements is that you have a low NOx heater installed. These low NOx heaters are much more expensive than your standard gas heater, and so your local pool store or pool service professional is not trying to take you for a ride when he tells you that this heater is going to cost you X amount of dollars. It's because of the low NOx regulations. And if you can repair your heater, I definitely would go that direction. But again, a good rule of thumb, if your heater is more than 10 years old, I definitely would say replace it, even if you have to spend a little extra money for the low NOx heater. And so putting a lot of money into a heater that's over 10 years old may not be cost effective in the long run, and you might be better off with a new heater. So I think the bottom line when it comes to budgeting for replacing your equipment, the two major components are your pool pump and filter. Everything else is secondary. And I definitely recommend replacing your pool pump and filter, especially if it's over 10 years old. And with the new regulations coming down from the Department of Energy, I think it's logical to replace your single speed pump now with a variable speed pump. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment on this video and I'll definitely answer your questions. And the repairs pool owners face after freezing conditions or a storm can be challenging. As your trusted pool care partner for over 50 years, Leslie's is here to help when you need us the most. They can assist with inspections, repairs, replacement parts, insurance estimates, and more. Stop by your local Leslie's or call 1-800-LESLIE's.